Yes, I can.
We ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm good to go.
Let's fire up this machine. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Broker Loaded Podcast. I'm Kurt Studley.
I'm Danny Grimes.
We're realtors in the nation's capital here in Ottawa.
Yes, we are.
We have a podcast.
We do have a podcast
Called the Broker Loaded Podcast, which you're watching or listening to right now.
that you can now find on various audio platforms as well.
The platforms where you find your favorite podcasts, we're going to be on them.
That's
You're going
right.
to find us there.
You bet.
Just look for the Broker Loaded Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yes, and I will
That's
say
exciting.
I should have taken Kurt's advice right from the start because he suggested it from the start. We should be on audio. But I guess I had a
You
bit
thought
of
it
an
was
ego and
TV.
wanted to see myself.
You thought it was TV.
Yes.
This is not TV. On this podcast, we like to talk about all things real estate. And lately, we've been touching on an interesting subject. And that's who people select as their realtors and how they should go about it. And along those lines, we have discussed in recent podcasts the difference between full-time professional realtors and those who treat real estate as a sort of part-time gig.
Yeah,
Okay.
part-time gig, and this the topic really we're going to focus on purchasers,
Yes. The buyers.
the buyers,
Yes.
and as most of you have probably noticed, we've been kind of promoting a question, or I've been promoting a question that you should really be asking realtors, particularly in this market when you're sitting down. They are there, you are interviewing them
Yes.
in order to market, in all likelihood, your family's most valuable asset, your home.
True.
And I've really been putting it out there that the first question you should be asking them is, are you a full-time professional? Or another way, do you have a part-time job or do you have a full-time job and you're working elsewhere?
Right. Right. So just to be clear who we're talking about here, because there are various types of realtors, and we both know realtors that have a couple of different careers, but both of them are full-time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They manage to run an excellent real estate business and have some sort of full-time job that they also do, and many of them are very successful, many of them are very good, but that's not who we're talking about.
No. Like we talked about this before we started to shoot this, and we both acknowledge the fact that there are, and between the two of us, we know many, and there are many great realtors who, in fact, have a full-time job elsewhere,
Right.
but are fully committed to servicing their clients. They do a great job.
Yeah.
And like most of us have anyway, if we're not available at any time during the day that may require the attention of something, we always have people in our office, a cooperation of somebody in our office
Even
to back us up.
that's even a good trait for full-time realtors to have, and many of us do, is that if we all have vacations, we all have commitments elsewhere that might take us away from our job. So we have
sure.
a backup plan. We have professional realtors in place who can handle anything that comes up and do the work that is necessary for clients at any given time. So that's always a good policy.
Oh, absolutely. We're really talking about the realtors who I like to refer, they parachute into the business. They're part-time, maybe they're working another job from their house.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and again, they decide they would like a bit of extra income, try and pop into the business. Most of the people like that, new agents aside, because all new agents use open houses to kind of start and build their career.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the part-time agents that just simply don't take the business seriously
Right.
or professionally.
Right.
Quite frankly, don't have respect for, I think, their colleagues and most certainly the clients that they'll be working with. They'll try and pick up some business by
Right.
doing open houses. It's even a good idea if you're a purchaser or a seller. If you're visiting open houses, and you tend to, kind of bond
Yes.
with the realtor at the open house, because
Right.
that's part of our job.
Right.
Just ask them if they're full-time, if they're fully committed to the profession of representing buyers and sellers.
Right. No matter if you're, like you say, buyer or seller, no matter who you are,
Definitely.
if you're interested in the services of a realtor, it's an excellent question to ask, amongst other questions. Like, there are a lot of them that you can ask. There's no question about that.
No, well, there's many.
Yeah.
There's many that you can ask.
Dabbling in a real estate career really doesn't provide the service level that any client of any ilk should expect nor deserve.
Particularly in this market.
Right? Because this market is ever changing. We've seen this market here in Ottawa go absolutely bananas, and then the next week, all of a sudden, things come to a halt, and then they start up again, and then prices go up, and then there's been a lot of activity here that need your attention on a daily basis, as if it were your career as a realtor, which makes sense.
I happen to think it's even more important today to be represented properly on the buying side than it is on the selling side.
Right.
Properties are still selling quickly with not a whole lot of effort.
Yeah.
They're not on the market very long.
We're talking about, and despite the fact we work for different brokerages and work different parts of the city and so on and so forth, we have the same philosophy, I think, when it comes to that. And this is all about, we're about, and this is the reason why we do this podcast, educating people as much as we can, passing along information, valuable information that will be of some import to, buyers, to sellers, to other realtors. So, you should be educated if you're hiring a real estate agent as to what that agent's all about.
And that realtor should be available in today's market if you're looking to purchase a home, no doubt. And just to re-emphasize a point that Kurt made, I happen to work with the Ottawa Property Group, a small brokerage here in Ottawa. I've been doing this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt happens to be with Remax Affiliates here in Ottawa, one of three locally owned.
That's right.
Real estate brokerages here in town. We could compete someday, but
It hasn't happened yet.
it hasn't happened.
It
You likely won't. He lives in Bell's Corners,
Yes, beautiful BC.
beautiful BC. But it just reinforces the fact that we believe you're truly getting an independent opinion,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, absolutely.
We're not here promoting ourselves.
No. I mean, we're a couple of good realtors.
I mean, if I got a call.
right? You wouldn't turn it away.
Wouldn't turn it
But
away.
at any rate, our concern mostly, and the reason we do this podcast is about educating ourselves and other realtors and the general public about what's going on in real estate and talking about current issues. And that's certainly something that people should be aware of. I've run into a lot of people recently who are looking at homes or kind of shopping for homes or thinking about selling and don't have their representation in place yet. And, believe me, I'm passing along information. These are the questions you should ask, be it me or somebody else. These are the questions you should be asking about your when it comes to your realtor and making a choice.
Yeah, and your realtor will sit down with you and go over your priorities in the home or selecting a home. Certainly the neighborhood, that is one, but your wants, needs, and must-haves. And it's our job to educate them. A lot of people that are in a certain price range, they may want that family room and separate dining room. They may want the large ensuite bathroom. But bringing them back down to reality, they have to start somewhere, which is something we're going to be touching on shortly. The expectations that purchasers have today.
Mm-hmm.
We hear it often from buyers, and we see it in the media that purchasers can't afford to buy a home today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's never been cheap to buy a home. The
No.
mortgage rates are still lower than our parents' rates in the 50s and 60s.
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yes.
That's a fact. I don't like having to say it, but purchasers, particularly first-time purchasers, maybe should start lowering their expectations. We're in a market where townhomes in my area and your area, right across the region, a 5-year-old townhome selling for $850,000.
Mm-hmm.
A 3-year-old end unit townhome out here with a single car garage, $930,000. Well, if you can't afford it, and most won't be able to unless
Right.
there's a significant down payment.
Right.
We just had out here a really nice 2-level, 2-bedroom condominium, very trendy,
Right.
2 balconies, balcony ground floor, balcony off the master bedroom. Nice and trendy, great neighborhood.
Right.
It got listed at $399,000. Now, before any of you say, yeah, it's going to sell for $600, no, it's not going to. You can still buy a nice, clean, newer, trendy 2-bedroom, 2-level townhome with a garage and surface parking for a second car for under $500,000.
It is possible.
Within $500,000. That's what I think people should be looking at.
Right.
there.
And so you're talking about, and this applies to buyers, it applies to sellers sometimes too, depending on what it is, what property they're trying to sell. But temper your expectations, right? Talk to your realtor about the reality of what's going on in the marketplace when it comes to the particular style of home that you're looking for. If you're constantly looking at, let's use townhomes as an example,
Well,
and
townhomes
$800 or $850,000 is out of your range, do yourself a favor and stop looking at them and talk to your realtor, sit down with your realtor and go, okay, we're willing to lower our expectations. Here's what we have to work with. Let's talk about that. The real numbers.
You know the most important thing to do at any time in any market? Get in the game.
And that's
in the game.
That's what we've been talking about when dealing with clients who are trying to get in. You have to set your parameters. Just get yourself in the game because it is relatively simple to build on your first purchase, no matter what it is.
I mean, the 2-bedroom multi-level condo that I'm talking about now.
It's a beautiful thing.
They're nice.
I've had one.
Well, I'll be selling my home this fall. And
do you need a good realtor?
Yeah. I do. Who doesn't have a full-time job?
Right.
Of course. No. There are a few very successful realtors with full-time jobs.
True.
But that's a unit that I would look at.
Yeah.
Like at my age, my son will be out of the house. My daughter's gone. My son's out in the next few years.
Right.
Got the lake property that I'll be going to. I don't need a 4-bedroom home. So
No.
I'd be very happy living in one of these units.
Yeah.
But the point I wanted to make was the buyer who lowered their expectations 2.5, 3 years ago paid $240 for that 2-bedroom multi-level unit.
That's true.
You know what they're shopping for now?
Mm-hmm.
That $850,000 townhome.
Because they've seen the value of their purchase go up and up and up, and they're able to take advantage of it and then move up to the next level. And that's what getting into the market, that's what we talk about. Getting in
the game
is all about.
Get in the game.
That's the only way to progress through the marketplace and up the ante as you go, if you so choose. I mean, you and I are on the other end of the spectrum where we, at some point, will downsize simply because I'm already an empty nester. I mean, have a hard time finding my nest at times. But anyway.
Kurt, we're 122 years old.
I suddenly forget your name. But anyway, getting into the marketplace, getting yourself established and start building that equity right away. You'll be astonished at how quickly that happens because, it's a cliche, but you're paying yourself. You're paying into your investment and getting a return. Because the more you knock down your mortgage and make your monthly or bi-monthly or bi-weekly or whatever it is payments you make, the more you're investing in your own ability to move forward in the housing market. And it's difficult to navigate. It's never been more difficult to navigate, I don't think.
Especially the buyers.
With people trying to get into the marketplace, it's never been more difficult.
For the buyers.
Yeah.
But a good, and a realtor is really going to do their client a service. We'll sit them down, because even if you get qualified for $850,000 purchase and you're going into a townhome,
Right.
don't forget the numbers that you get qualified on. They don't include your lifestyle.
No.
They don't include if you like having a bottle of red wine on the weekend,
No.
going to the odd Sens game,
No.
Red Blacks.
Right.
They're called the Red Blacks.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
what
the
they
Red
call them.
Blacks. Do you like to go to a movie? Do you want to go on a family vacation?
Right. These are all things you must consider.
Yeah.
That must
You may
be.
living in the home that you ultimately are liking,
Yeah.
but can you really enjoy it if you can't step out the front door?
Well, exactly. And
You know.
the term for that is house poor.
House poor.
Right.
Yeah.
You've stretched yourself to the limit when it comes to your home, so it's difficult to get out and do anything else. And in an expensive world, you must take that into consideration
Oh,
when,
I mean,
when you're investing in even if you're in a home and you're willing to move up, you have to understand that may result in some sacrifices, right?
And I don't know too many people who want to move into a new home and have to stay inside and be isolated after the last 2.5 years we just went through.
That wouldn't be much fun.
That wouldn't be much fun. I'd like to read this. So we apparently do have a listener out in the 604, Kelowna, BC.
What?
Named Riley, and he seems to follow us.
Right.
So he's been
On the Broker Loaded podcast.
on the Broker Loaded podcast. That's right, that you can find on YouTube.
And on
Multiple
multiple
audio
podcast platforms.
Yeah,
Your favorite pick it'll be there.
it'll be there
Soon.
soon. This will be the first one that goes up on it, by the way.
Perfect,
So
perfect.
that's why we're not shouting out Spotify or radio. We have
Don't know yet.
So anyway, Riley, he's been following the comments. I've been talking about on social media how important it is to ask that question. So Riley happened to send us an email. This is from a couple of weeks ago. Hi guys, I learned the hard way. Myself and my wife were referred to an agent by a friend, which is very common. I mean, do you know somebody? We signed an agreement for 60 days. I'm assuming they signed a buyer agency agreement, a rep agreement.
Or something similar in BC.
Similar in
Right.
BC. They're actually the same. So over the first few weeks, homes we were interested in and wanted to see always seemed to be a problem.
Right.
They were either sold or we couldn't get into them at the times we wanted to get into them.
Right.
We found out through our friend that the agent worked full-time for the government and was never available during the day. We missed a few opportunities. When we asked to be released from our contract, she said her broker would have to approve.
Right.
The broker approved 2 weeks later. We confirmed with our new agent that they were full-time. We were successful buying a home here in Kelowna. So this guy's not tremendously upset. He's not venting a
No.
lot of anger. He just wants to point out to people that they possibly lost a few opportunities because they weren't able to see it during the day. Now, why is it important to see it during the day in our marketplace, actually throughout Ontario? As most of the buyers know, the trend is, and they're being told by the realtors, offers are being withheld until such and such a date.
Right.
It didn't take us long this morning to find a few where offers were being presented either mid-morning, but most of them mid-afternoon,
On a weekday.
2, 3, 4 o'clock on a weekday.
Yep. It's common practice.
Your realtor has to be available. They have to be available, or they have to have somebody who's covering their business when they're not available, even if it's not a job that they may be working at. Like Kurt said earlier, it could be a doctor's appointment that they have, an emergency came up, a flat tire, any situation.
Right. You have to be available as a realtor in those situations. If your client is involved in a multiple offer scenario, you must be prepared for any eventuality, and that eventuality oftentimes includes writing up an updated, revised offer at the very last second with maybe at the most an hour window to do that. So if your supervisor at your full-time job is got something for you to do there, But your client is calling you going, we need to put an offer in, and you're not really aware of what's going on. How's that going to sit?
And it does happen.
It happens way too often,
You
to
know,
be
and
honest.
I can hear those agents, and please, I'm talking about the parachuters. That's what I'm going to call them from now on.
Okay,
going forward.
fair enough.
The parachuters, because again, I'd like to reiterate, lots of realtors working part-time, lots of realtors with part-time jobs to make ends meet, to better improve themselves. I get it, full-time jobs. We're specifically talking about the people who parachute in because they've decided they want to go on a vacation this summer or rent a cottage, and they're just dropping in to try and make a deal and then dropping out.
Listen, I've experienced this firsthand. There was a time I had a contract for a communications job. It was a 6-month contract. And at the time, I was 3 or 4 years into my real estate career. I took the contract. It was an interesting job to do, and in all honesty, I could have used the income at the time. So I had to, first and foremost, I pointed out to my other employer that, look, if something comes up real estate wise, I have to pay attention to it. And we had that agreement. But even still, after a month or two, I was like, I didn't feel right about it. I didn't feel comfortable about it, and ended up not, ending up staying the 6 months.
Well, there's 2 points I want to make. I had a similar situation, but I didn't have a job. I remember having to deliver a counteroffer to the other realtor. And they gave me what I assumed was their home address to deliver said counteroffer to. It's back in the days when
you did it in person.
When we did it in person.
Right.
And I actually got out of my car and rang the doorbell, and the owner of the home answered. And I said, I'm looking for so-and-so. And he says, oh, he's up on my roof. He was the contractor shingling the roof. Okay? Now, the other thing, I can hear the realtors, and you know who I'm talking to here. I can hear them going, well, e-signature, it doesn't matter where you are. You know what? Bullcrap. Because a lot of the business and a lot of the negotiating still takes place. If you've got 10 offers on a property and 3 of those offers are really close, in all likelihood, you are going to get a call, or you are going to have a dialogue with the listing realtor.
Right.
So you have to be able, the listing realtor wants to feel everybody out and know where each offer might be going. And you can't do that.
It's pretty well impossible.
It's impossible.
It needs your full attention. It really does need your full attention.
Well, you're doing a disservice. You're doing a disservice to a buyer or seller. More importantly, though, today, a buyer, I feel.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Without a doubt.
Speaking of buyers,
Yep.
there are many things to consider these days, not the least of which is choosing an agent. There's no question about that. So make sure you ask those questions. Feel free to, go to an open house and talk to a realtor who might give you some insight, right?
Absolutely.
Open houses are back.
Open houses are back. I did see a lot. There were a lot of signs.
I conducted an open house last weekend for the first time in way over 2 years.
Yeah. And I think we're almost ready to wrap up, are we?
Well, and you didn't even bring up the Habs beating the Leafs on the weekend.
I'm a Habs fan.
I did hear about it.
Beat them twice in a row, by
not
the
on
way.
this podcast. Listen, we did get a nice email from BC. So if you're ever interested in comments or you have a question that pops into your head, and there's always questions about real estate everywhere you go, everybody wants to talk about it. So if you want some real answers with professional realtors,
give one of us a call or
email
us at TheBrokerLoadedPodcast@gmail.com.
You're assuming it's at the bottom of the screen?
We'll make sure it is this time.
Right.
Yeah. Might even include a phone number and our names going forward.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I do have one other thing to bring up, though, that we're going to be working on. And if you are a buyer, even if you're working with another realtor, though we'd like it if people came who, just wanted to be educated and learn. We are putting together a seminar, a buyer seminar based on this market.
That's right. We're figuring out the details, but it will be soon, and we'll be doing an in-person seminar.
It will be limited. I've never been a fan of the cattle in, cattle out, meaning You know, the realtors hope that 40 or 50 people show up, fill themselves up with donuts and coffee, and they hope a golden nugget stays behind. We limit these seminars to 12, no more than 15. They do include a breakfast. It's usually held on the weekend.
Right.
And stay tuned.
Breakfast is good.
We'll be advertising it on our social media platforms. And it comes with a copy, a downloaded version of 54 mistakes to avoid when buying a home. And we could easily add another 5 or 6 to that.
We sure
on
could.
Today's market.
We sure could. Email us at TheBrokerLoadedPodcast@gmail.com. You can watch us on all of the platforms available to you for podcasts. We don't know exactly all of them, but we know they're out there, and we're going to be on them.
Joanna's going to figure that out.
She is, and you can always watch us if you'd rather do that on our YouTube channel, right? On the Broker Loaded Podcast YouTube.
Absolutely, and you can find us on Facebook as well.
Thanks for watching the Broker Loaded Podcast. I'm Kurt Studley.
I'm Dan Grimes.
We'll see you next time.
Next time, guys. Thanks a lot.